Okay, so here's an example of how to execute a bad trade. We're going to execute a bad trade live here that will fail most likely, well, at least 90-something% sure it will fail. And that is a badly timed correction trade. We're going to do that. We're going to place a touch trade here when price is showing a stall signal at the 50% retracement. Assumingly, a stall signal should correct towards the long side and prove to be profitable. But watch what's going to happen, because if the probabilities are against us, which 9 out of 10 times they will be in this particular scenario, this trade will fail because the correction target of 50% has shown a very sharp reversal, in which case invalidating the stall signal, and we shouldn't have taken this trade. But we've gone for it, and I'm going to come back shortly to show you what the results are, if positive or negative. Okay, we're back. Price has clearly beat us. This trade is pretty much invalidated. It is going to fail. And the reason for that is that we took a stall signal trade at a key reversal level, such as the 50%. You never do that. A lot of people have written in asking about this. So I'm going to show you now how to get back at the market, how to win back this loss and to get us net profitable in a live environment, a stressful situation where we've already made a failure. What we're going to do is put in a boundary condition. Since we're in a high volatility zone, we know that the 50% and 60% retracements, what are the targets here? 141.025, and the other targets are around the 140.9 mark. So we're in a good range here between those two levels. We're going to execute a boundary trade to be outside this boundary. Let me just confirm the numbers here. 140.9 is around the 38.2 level, and 141 is above the 61.8% level. As you know, ITM Saturn PRO puts in the 50% and 61.8% at high volatility zones. It is therefore a good assumption that a boundary trade will result in a favorable outcome if we go for outside the boundary, because the volatility will be so high that it will escalate outside of this boundary. Now, we're putting this trade in to recover the loss in the previous trade that was deliberately executed to show you how to execute a bad trade, just to re-inform people that if you're doing that in those situations, that's clearly going to work against you. Here's us mitigating the risk, and then we're going to go for possibly another trade to show you how to add to this and build up profitable, net profitable position to end the day with a good result. Okay, so just stepping back in here, we've got 1 minute and 43 seconds remaining on that first trade, the bad trade. So I thought I'd show you the approach up until its expiry. Now, it was a bad trade. Remember what I said about the 2 out of 10 probability being that it would work for us? That might just be in play. It's likely that this trade will still fail. We only have 1 minute or so left. Clear invalidation of that level. As you can see, the ITM Saturn PRO 61.8% was successful the first time. We went against that into a touch trade we shouldn't have done at the time. We should really have waited for a retracement if we wanted to be really bold. But now this particular scenario, ITM Saturn PRO is saying that the 61.8% retracement is due to be invalidated because we now have a 100% high call option probability. We have a second retest of the 61.8 happening, which is a clear indication that, a third retest of the 61.8% happening, which is a clear indication that it is due to be broken. So if we're lucky in these next 40-something seconds, which I doubt will be the case, we might end up having a profitable trade on this first one. That's why I've come back in here. But if not, it's still a bad trade. It was taken deliberately at a bad position to show you what a lot of traders are doing with Fibonacci levels generally and not really timing them appropriately. That's why ITM Saturn PRO is there to help you time those. And if you see a stall signal close to a key level, remember the priorities I've discussed in previous session videos. Fibonacci has priority over everything else that Saturn PRO says. So if the Fibonacci level is a key level like the 50 and 61.8, and you have a stall signal that appears around that key level, ignore, because that is not going to work in your favor. The key level will always come out stronger than anything else. So just waiting for expiry here, pretty close to a failed trade. Just going to see it through to completion. And we have another boundary condition in place as well. So we might just take another trade now or just wait for it a little longer before we go. So there we go. That first trade has expired outside of the money as I expected. And what we're going to do is wait for our boundary trade, which is the risk mitigation trade, to complete. Okay, so we're back. Price is approaching the boundary, so I thought I'd just come back in shortly. We still have another 30 minutes to go in this boundary condition trade, so we are going to look for more opportunities to exploit this broken ITM Saturn Pro 61.8. Now, ITM Saturn Pro's probabilities are clearly showing that the 61.8% has been broken, and everything is strongly bullish with 100% high call option probability. So we're in a situation where we have a failed trade here. We have zero. We have another boundary trade that is currently outside of the money. It's within the boundary. It's supposed to close outside of the boundary. What do? When a 61.8% is broken, we exploit it. That's the best place to take a 100% high call option probability trade. So we're going to take a $2,500 trade to go long here on the Euro Japanese yen, looking at the 61.8% having been broken and 100% high call option probability is now in play towards the long side here on the Euro Japanese yen. So why are we taking this one trade? We've had one failure. We've had a second trade here, the boundary right here, which is being taken as a risk mitigation trade, to recoup some of the losses on that first trade. And now we're taking a third trade here to exploit and get back into a profitable situation. Don't worry about fluctuations. We've got 4 minutes and something seconds remaining here. We're going to take this third trade to give us some profit for the end of the day, because the whole point of this particular session today is to show you how to come out of a stressful situation using high probability trades to your advantage, how to mitigate risk if you have a failed trade. So now we are in the money on a 5-minute Euro Japanese yen Forex binary option here, while our second trade, the risk mitigation trade, is heading towards its outside boundary region with another 28 odd minutes left to go here. So what we'll end up doing is having one failed trade, the one I executed for you in the beginning, how to poorly execute a trade. The second boundary trade, which was executed within the 61.8% and 0% boundaries shown by ITM Saturn Pro, is going to prove as a mitigator for us and recoup some of the losses, most of the losses from the first trade. And this third trade here that's been taken at a very high probability scenario is going to prove to be our profit maker for the day. So we're going to come out net positive, hopefully, if this goes through to completion. There is a 100% high call option probability advertised by ITM Saturn Pro on this trade. And as you can see, we're very comfortably in the money already with a few minutes left, and our risk mitigation trade is approaching and has gone outside of its boundary now. There we go. So this is going to continue on. It has some time left. There's 26 minutes left on that trade. We're going to focus on this Euro Japanese yen 5-minute trade and see it through to completion. The 61.8% ITM Saturn Pro retracement, when broken, plus or 100% high call option probability on the left, indicates that the chart will be revised by ITM Saturn Pro shortly to show us long Fibonacci retracements and projections instead. So there will be a revision coming up very shortly. The great thing about the 61.8% being tackled or broken is that the next movement afterwards is volatile. It is extremely explosive on most occasions, 8 to 9 out of 10 times. Hence, taking this Euro Japanese yen long trade here, a high option, is the best bet, given that every probability is bullish, as you can see here, 100% high call option, everything is strongly bullish, plus we have a broken ITM Saturn Pro 61.8% retracement. We have a boundary trade that's going into its boundary zone slowly but surely. It's got loads of time. We're not worried too much about that at the moment. It has loads of time to go into its boundary, outside of its boundary, that's the trade. And we have this third trade here, which is 2 minutes and something seconds remaining, which is going to prove to be, there you go, there's that explosive movement, a 61.8% ITM Saturn Pro retracement and or projection. When broken or when touched, and whichever direction you take the trade in, the movement is explosive. Hence, the use of one touch and boundary trades is best at these positions. And that third trade we've just taken is the most ideal trade to take on the short-term 5-minute boundary option trade whenever a key retracement is broken, because we know if we take it in the broken direction, the volatility will be so high it will take us comfortably into the money like it has here. And lead us to a profitable trade. So we're going to probably see the revision coming up shortly and end up having a nice trade here to take home for the day in terms of profit. The first one was a failure. The second one, the boundary trade, is going to prove to be our risk mitigator. So that's what it's achieving right now. It's going to most probably be profitable here. So give us back some of the losses from the first trade, and this third trade is the moneymaker for the day that is intended to give us a net profitable position. So we've got just a minute and something seconds remaining here, with price having comfortably broken through now. Volatile movement is going to continue on to the 0% and then revise the chart. First trade has just disappeared after spending a few seconds in the platform. Once expiry is calculated, it goes away. And 52 seconds remaining here on this 5-minute Euro Japanese yen trade, which is the profit maker for the day that we executed to get us some money in for the session because we were net negative. If the boundary trade expires in the money, it has quite a few minutes left. We still need something to give us a profit for the day. That third trade achieves that. Now we see a stall signal here, which is even further indication that price will retrace for a little bit before continuing long. We have 20 seconds remaining on this particular trade, so we're comfortably in the money. That stall signal is actually great news for the boundary trade because that just means we're going to see a bit of a retracement up until the boundary. We've got another 20-something minutes left on that boundary trade, and we're probably going to see this price rise even higher. So now our boundary trade is pretty much a confirmed winner. And since we have 4 odd seconds left on this 5-minute trade, this much is pretty much this is a pretty guaranteed winner, and it's expired in the money. So that's our profit-making trade for the day. Now we focus on the boundary trade, the risk mitigation trade from earlier. The stall signal appearing gives us even more confidence that price will continue moving long, which is outside of the boundary since we took an outside boundary trade, meaning that our risk mitigation trade will most likely be profitable. It's in the green zone. It's got quite a few minutes left, so we'll probably pause in a little bit. I don't want to drag this on for another 15 minutes. It is an outside boundary expiration trade, which means that it'll go all the way up until the last second. So I'm going to come back and record the last few minutes of that trade, whether or not it's positive or negative. But the indication right now is that it will most likely, after this retracement is over, due to the stall signal, get us back into the money. So we now have $4,250 in a gross return on that last 5-minute $2,500 trade, giving us a $1,750 profit for the day. We still have to recoup the first loss because our boundary trade is not over yet. This retracement should end soon. The stall signal told us about this retracement, so now this retracement is probably going to end up shooting long again, and we're going to follow it through to a successful, hopefully, completion of the boundary trade, which will basically wipe out most of the loss from the first trade. Exciting, isn't it? It's when you have a stressful scenario like this is absolutely brilliant because you have so many ways of getting back your losses and exploiting opportunities using ITM Saturn Pro that it makes for an extremely engaging, high impact, high stress, but very confident trading session. So I'm going to pause shortly. We've got quite a few minutes left here and come back towards the end. Okay, so we're back here. We've got 2 minutes roughly remaining on this trade. As you can see, price has exploded outside the boundary. The outside boundary trade that was executed to mitigate the risk of the first trade, the losing trade, is now so successfully and so comfortably in the money. We've got 1.5 minutes left here, and it's pretty much no going anywhere else. Plus, we don't have a confirmed completion of this Fibonacci 0% at the top. So with everything bullish in the left-hand panel and no confirmation signal that the retracement is over or projection is over, this trade is pretty much on fire. It's just going straight up. And that's great news because this was our risk mitigating trade. This was supposed to get us out of the very first losing trade, and to recoup most of the losses, not all of the losses, since we don't have a full return on it. But it basically wipes out roughly 72 to 75% of the loss incurred on the first trade. We had a second trade, the third one that was executed as a profit maker for the day that expired in the money, as you saw earlier. And now we have this second outside boundary trade that has currently another 40-something seconds remaining and is very, very comfortably in the money. Price has formed a nice little channel that's basically reverberating within the channel and bouncing off of the intermediate retracement levels there shown by ITM Saturn Pro. All of these are drawn automatically by ITM Saturn Pro to show you exactly what price is doing, due to do, will do, or will not do going forward. You've got 20 seconds remaining, and this outside boundary trade will successfully complete as well in a few seconds here. That basically has turned what started out as a losing session, where I started by placing a trade poorly using incorrect timing, to show you what happens when we get ourselves into a bad situation. That trade was taken with the premise that it would lose, at least with a 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 probability that it would lose. And then we went into this whole soiree of make back the loss and then do something to get us back into profit. We did something to get us back into profit by placing that third trade. We also executed this second outside boundary trade to recoup our loss from the first one. This has now expired in the money. The second trade we took on the Euro Japanese yen, the 5-minute one, also expired in the money earlier on. That was the profit maker for the day. This one's the risk mitigator for the day, so it's wiped out most of the loss from the first trade. And we are now in a very nice, comfortable, net profitable position for the entire session. This is how you use ITM Saturn Pro to come out of a bad situation and turn it into a really good one. It's stressful, but it works really well. Thank you.